Now that's the much we will take on the news update. We'll now go into our second discussion for the day. The defection of a former governor of Kano State, Rabiu Kwankwaso, to the new Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, has elevated the little-known party into the limelight as a potential third force in the 2023 elections, especially in the presidential poll. Many followers of the former governor have been trooping into the party across northern Nigeria. Mr. Kwankwaso said his latest change of party was due to leadership crisis in the PDP in Kano State and the Northwest chapters. On today's show, we shall be looking at prospects of the former governor of Kano State, Engineer Rabiu Kwankwaso, and we are being joined on the show by one of his ardent followers and supporters, Dr. Yunusa Tanko. Dr. Yunusa Tanko was the former chairman of IPAC. Dr. Tanko, you're welcome on the show.
Thank you very much for having me, and good morning, Nigerians.
Okay.
All right. Well, when a lot of people heard about the defection of Kwankwaso, many were thinking maybe to another, very strong political party, popular one at that. But instead, many were shocked that it's the NNPP, although it's an old political party, but not many were expecting him to go to such a party. So, don't you think that that's that's a bullet on the leg, for him already?
Okay. Before I add or intervene on your question or your preamble, let me join millions of Nigerians to mourn some of the things that are happening, especially in the lives of killings and loss of lives, especially those that are happening in the east, where the soldiers were killed, and his wife, and then the killing of Deborah, though unwarranted, it could have led to a lot. It has led to a lot of issues back and forth. But any loss of life is a minus to the country. And then thirdly, with the issues of some of the bomb blasts that happened in my state in Kano, there are contradictory statements that's coming on whether it was a bomb blast or an attack. But for me, it's about life that is lost. And so I join millions of Nigerians, and I hope that good governance will stop all of these things that is happening. Now, back to your question. I once supposed started studying the man called Dr. Rabiu Musa, engineer Dr. Malam Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, because he has a lot of name attached to him.
All right.
I'm a Northerner. I grew up in Lagos. I came back home in Kaduna, Kano. My interest in politics, I was a student of Badaraba Musa, a student of Otto Wanko, a student of Chief Late Ganifa Wahimi. There's this particular interest as regard to children of the North, not well educated. In any street you find in Lagos, you either be called a Mala, Malu, who doesn't know anything, or somebody who
Aboki.
is just Aboki, who doesn't know anything, because the ones that you see on the street doing shoemakers, and those ones begging on the street, and uncared for children. We grew up in Idiaraba. It's an area where it's more or less like a Hausa-dominated area, but it's within Mushin local government, so we are surrounded by Surulere and all. Now, Surulere to VI and all is not really too far, but you can see the clear demarcation. We live in a suburb. The way in which we live shows us as if we are not even almost like Nigerians or human beings. So I took up the issue of child education. I myself tried to train myself. In fact, you can't believe it, I demanded to be sent to school. And today I am what I am. So I fell in love with the educational interests of Dr. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. In anywhere you go in Kano, every local government, you will see that building that he has in trying to transform the educational system of the Kano people. And today is his history, the number of people he has sent to universities. And he said that, look, Tanko, I said to them, you as commissioners or those who have been privileged in my cabinet, your children will not benefit from this system. It is the children of the poor, people like me, will benefit from that particular thing. And today you find we have pilots, we have nurses, we have midwifery, we have all sorts of well-trained people, we have doctors. This is forthright in thinking. And I think that is some of the things that endear him in the minds of the people, that make him distinct.
All right. So now we are talking about his prospects.
Yes,
politically.
his prospect is giving you a route that would translate him to the followers that he has. If you notice, most of his followers are not those people that you give money to come into. If Dr. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso arrive here and say he wants to see 100 people, he just make a call and everybody is here.
As
So,
a follow-up to his question,
yes,
the prospect. You know, the NNPP is a new party. And as you're aware, we need structures. Structures in political parties help to win elections. Now, this party came on barely 2 months ago, and the election is less than a year away. What are the prospects?
Well, if you could be a little bit patient with me, I know you don't have time, but I needed to give you this background, because politics is about the people. And once you have the people on ground supporting you, the prospect is high. You just made into your preamble saying that the influx of people coming in, it is what they see on the ground because of the ground that he has already built over the years that has propelled him to have this particular large horizon of prospect. The prospect is so large to a point that because he has the grassroots support. He once said to me, he said, look, if I go to primaries of any of these particular elections, I will not win, because the structures of the party is being gagged by those who are already in position of power.
Yeah, so but when we
and now for him, if he goes to a general election, he can flood anybody. So in other words, what he has going for him, the prospect is so high because he has a lot of people who are his supporters on the ground.
All right, there's no doubt that Dr. Kwankwaso is a force to be reckoned with in Kano and in some northwestern
Not
states.
only in Kano.
Yes, well, whichever way. But the truth is, we are talking about a presidential election here.
Yes.
And to win a presidential election, you need that structure across the country, not just, you know, in a certain region or of the country and all of
Good.
that. So that's the concern for many people.
Well, now, knowing that, we have been working together in an alliance group. So what they did was that, you know, before they have what they call the Kwankwaso movement. That Kwankwaso movement, of course, they now decided that, okay, let us transfer it into a national movement. They call it the NTI or so. Transforming it to have a nationalistic look, instead of him being cast as a northern political party or a northern movement. That has, I was there, it has a lot of diverse people from different parts of this country.
Does the NNPP have that spread?
Of course, that is what I'm telling you. It is that movement that translated into that particular political party.
Okay, at the moment.
It was at a birthday program in Akwa Ibom. In Akwa Ibom, where he went to that particular program, it was one of our colleagues, architect Etop. And the hall was filled to the capacity. And I was surprised when I saw a lot of people in Akwa Ibom supporting his person or his movement.
Okay, please, can you tell us how many states where NNPP is present at the moment?
The NNPP as a party led by Agbomejan and Ogbabuna for long have had all of the structures just like our party. But you see, most of the pressmen don't really give a look into this political party because they call us smaller political party. Like my party, the National Conscience Party, I can tell you I have party structure in all of the 36 states. They may not be as huge as APC and all because you don't know them. You don't even take your time to know even if they are existing. So, but there's this group that they call the National Republican Institute who did a study on all of the political parties. So NNPP has structure in all the states of the federation. In fact, what makes them even survive is that they won elective seats in Bauchi states. Many people may not know. And that was what made them to be. So the structure of the NNPP is everywhere in the country. All it needs to be done to have is to fortify it.
How come we keep hearing about it in Kano, Jigawa, Katsina, and Niger, basically?
Because of this particular fact. Of the party has been there. It has its own state structure everywhere. They conduct their own state congresses. They have them because even they don't, they wouldn't have been existing as a political party. They may not have been as huge as what you are expecting them to do. But with the invent of this particular coming in of Dr. Rabi Musa Kwankwaso into NNPP, it kind of further enhances it, and more are coming.
All right, now let's talk about what Kwankwaso will do differently. Nigeria is currently dealing with, you know, in fact, I cannot even summarize it. I mean, we're dealing with a whole lot in the country. Chief among them is the issue of insecurity in the country. What is he going to do differently that we have not seen already?
You see, I'm speaking to you on a platform as a leader of the Inter-Party Advisory Council. That's to tell you that I'm one of the oldest political party chairmen, knowing fully well of all the existing political parties. That is the particular background I'm talking to you about. So knowing all of these particular individuals, like for example, Dr. Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, take a look at the narrative that is being explored in Kano as a case study. One of the problems of insecurity in this country is due to poverty and lack of information, and the issue of what do you put as infrastructure for the people to benefit from. And that exonerated Kano for a very long time. Apart from that first bomb blast that happened in Bombay at the police headquarters, there was very little that had happened as regard to insurrection in Kano. So that has translated into some of the things that he has put in place, which he can transform into the national outlook. What are the problems of Nigeria? Poverty and the lack of the total neglect of the local government completely. That gives room for everybody to come in. So he can use that as a yardstick. Even though at the moment now, I have not seen his blueprint, but I know exactly his thinking as regard to how do we inculcate this culture of inclusiveness in our politics. The issue of completely annihilating others, why you don't take everybody along with you to change the narrative. As of the moment now, we were together with him in Kano on Saturday, and this particular assertion that he is a grandstanding person, he started on his own, it was debunked because he takes his phone to call people. Let's work together. Let's do this together. What are your problems? Let's solve them together. If you carry people along, if I sit down with you and carry you along in what I'm doing, you will not cause mayhem for me because you are part of me. And you know that whatever it is that I'm doing, all of us are benefiting from it.
All right.
So the bottom for me here, and I know which is good for him, which is thinking is that let's take the people of the lower trodden people. Let's involve them into governance.
Okay, now,
because those are the people that are used to commit heinous crime in the system.
Okay, if you talk about inclusiveness,
yes,
you know, others will say, well, the best way to demonstrate inclusiveness and bringing everyone together is to give Southerners a chance at the presidency, which automatically puts, you know, your Kwankwaso at a disadvantage already, being a northerner, you know, having, you know, the president currently being a northerner as well. So the issue of zoning and, you know, rotation of power and all of that, how do you reconcile that with this?
I'm a proponent of Southern leadership. I've been quoted as saying that I support an Igbo candidature and all of that. But somebody just alerted me. Has there been any part of this country that had not ruled? None. Every part of this country have ruled this country.
In the current dispensation.
Current
dispensation on the political arrangement?
Leadership. When you want to display the leaders of Nigeria, you display everybody that has governed. You cannot exempt anybody.
From 99 to date.
Not 99 to date. That you are not giving it, you are not micro-zoning it.
No, I mean,
but when you say leadership is one. When you go to Aso Villa, you want to look at the head of state and president of Nigeria, you find everybody that representing Israel, they are already there. You cannot exclude any one of them. So this particular narrative now is changing. And for a simple fact, at this point in time, we need leaders that have the capacity to rule this country, to lead this country.
You know, when we talk about zoning, there's a precision by a certain region, you know, of the country. They felt that, look, we've not had a chance to even attain the highest office in the land, which is the southeastern part of the country. And that has been made, you know, over and over. Even certain people from different regions have also shared, you know, the same views. So,
at the same time, even when you want to accuse people of misrule, you will also mention those who have ruled from other parts. Do you get it? If you want to say you did not rule, you are not being given opportunity to rule. But when you want to make accusation that some people have ruled us for a certain period of time, you accuse those who are already in those particular positions from the other, maybe in military. So why would you? That's hypocrisy. Why don't you join them with good things that they have done? rather than say that at the part of when you're accusing them, they were part of it at this particular time. Somebody will accuse Abacha as looting this country at a point in time. What would somebody say about Aguiyi Ironsi?
Okay.
So the narrative has to change. For me, anybody in this country has the capacity to rule this country, provided that you are not being discriminative, and you are not descending, or you are being choosing your own part of your country to be more over another. And if you have the capacity to rule for the interests of all Nigerians.
Okay, I see Dr. Kwankwaso, and I see what the NNPP is doing in Kano. I see that they are gathering momentum in Kano. As a matter of fact, I see defections, and I read of defections almost on a daily basis from the popular parties like the APC to NNPP. I don't see that happening across the country. That's one. Then the second question, I don't see Dr. Kwankwaso traveling across the countries, across the divide to tell them about his agenda.
Okay. You see, that's why it is good to do investigative journalism. Dr. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso just came back from Benin, Edo State. I don't know whether a lot of people know that. He went to Oyo to condole the death of the paramount ruler, the Alaafin of Oyo. He was there. In fact, you see, from the conglomerate of what we are building, we were also inviting him. We invited him to Ondo, although he lost his brother at that time. So to say that probably he's not moving, he's been moving.
You know, it's a different thing to meet. I mean, it's a different thing to travel on the account of, you know, some condolence visit and the rest. And it's entirely a different thing to visit on the account of meeting with the grassroots, meeting with the people, you know, talking about your vision, talking about what you have to offer. You know, they are two different things.
When you associate yourself with the mishap of a people that happened to them in their own states, in their own enclave, what does that translate? It's all politics.
But you need to tell to me your agenda.
Yes, of course. At the point in which you are visiting, people will ask you questions, people will gather, and then you will telling them, look, this is what I'm interested in. And why do you think he's going there to greet them? Apart from the fact that he's a human being, he's showing that particular love. He's also trying to tell them that it's because I'm running for presidency, I'm here to tell you that I have empathy and I'm humane. So he visited them. And that is political. People have different ways of getting closer to the people. For me, if you come to me and visit me in my dying needs, and when I'm in the morning state, you have endeared me into your heart, because that means you care about me.
Okay. Now let's talk about, you know, something we have now come to know as political will in governance. Oftentimes we see people with very good intentions, brilliant ideas on paper, you know, their manifesto is good, but when they get to office, implementing what they set out to do becomes a huge problem. Maybe because of corruption and other factors, political considerations and the rest of them.
That is why you need...
How would, you know, with such a followership, you know, that I'm sure you have a lot of loyalists, isn't it, Kwankwaso? How would you be able to...
That is why you need experience. Experience in governance, tested record. What have you done when you had an opportunity? For us, in this big tent, what we are trying to promote, we are trying to promote people who have capacity, who have known the system very well. And so when you have already had that particular experience, it is easy for you to midwife what you want to do.
Everyone in the race will say he has that experience.
Not everybody.
I mean, the Tinubus will say they have the experience.
Yes.
In fact, the
there's no newcomer in the race, actually.
Will say he
there
has
are all
the
people
experience.
that, you know.
No, there are some who are new.
So, I mean, Atiku, so you have quite a number of people who, in their own right, are experienced in this.
Yes, you have some of them who has experience. At the same time, you have some who are not experienced at all, who have not tasted power, who want to lead this country. There are many of them. But we are talking about somebody who has been a senator, who has been a member of the House of Representatives, who has been a two-time governor and all. But in answering your question further, he once said to the people that the second time when he came in, he said, look, if it's the best clothes, I have won. If it's a wife or a woman, I have had. If money, I had money. But when I'm here now, what I want to do is give back to the people.
Okay.
And that, of course, send a signal. So if you are not ready to work for the people, don't join me. So those that joined him at that time to work were given that particular express direct order that we are here to work for the people.
Okay.
So for me, it resonates with me.
I would like specifics.
Yes.
What are the top 3 issues he wants to tackle when he becomes president, and how does he want to go about them?
Education, education, education.
How about insecurity?
It falls into place. If you look at one of his track records, the number of people that even as we are speaking now, he has a university that he joined together with Indian. He's there in Karu. And that university takes care of every student in the whole Federation of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Not Kano people.
So this education,
Yes.
You mentioned only one.
Yes, I mentioned one because it's a cardinal point for changing the dynamics. Once you are educated, you can seek for the highest position in the land. Once you are educated, you will know your left from your right. You are well informed. You can take care of security. You will not be involved. Because
At the moment, in some states, schools are shut because of insecurity.
That is why, because right from the beginning, the basic structure of educational background has not been done. I give you an example. I just read something about. I just heard you talking about Zamfara State. If you are where the children cannot even go to school or they've not been able to write their exams, because the first point of view is that you have not institutionalized that particular education. Why do you think the Southwest is far ahead of the North as of today? Because Awolowo, in that particular point in time, I was a product of Jakande free education. The schools were built like a poultry, but the teachers were very, very good. And if you look back at that time, we were going to public schools. I went to Army Children's School. I went to Ikeja Grammar School. They were all public schools. And today, look at how I turned out. Would anybody use me now for any heinous crime? No. Okay, so if in the case that we make education as a focal point, we could change all the narrative of one of the problems that we have, especially in the North.
Okay, the thing is that, if you take a look at education, the implication of education on our society is definitely going to be in the long run. It's not in the short term. But for now, in the short term, we have a situation where children can actually not even stay in school. So we have to even secure the schools in the first place for us to be able to, conduct the proper education that needs to be done. So in that short term, how would you ensure that the schools are safe for the children to even go to these schools? We have millions of out-of-school children, especially in the northern.
Yes, you have to think short term and long term. In the short term, those are the proponents that you are thinking about as regard to human capital development, as regard to employment, providing employment for those who have already been trained. Like, for example, I just gave you an example of some of the things that Dr. Rabi Musa Kwankwaso did in terms of education. Do you also know that at a point in time, widows who lost their husbands and all were gathered in the and then married so that they can have protection and shelter over them, so that the children that they give birth to will be well catered for. And as regard to issue of employment, he tried to make sure that a lot of people were employed so that they can take care of their family. But most importantly, the more they are educated, the more they can be ingenious in creating wealth for themselves. Imagine if, for example, most of the major problems that we have in the North is the Almajiri system. In the Almajiri system, most of our kids are on the streets begging for arms to survive. Now, you now turn them into a productive use by, in the long run, trying to say, okay, you can at least read and write, apart from the Islamic way of life, which a lot of us in the North are used to. Now you now adjoin them with a Western education. Each of those children will know the difference, and no malam can manipulate them. No malam can tell them that this is what, because they can be able to read and write and join themselves in the Western way of survival. And they can be creative in their thinking. Then they can produce a lot of Yunus Atanko, even more than brilliant people than more than Yunus Atanko.
I agree totally.
So that is the reason why, that is why.
This also is in the long run, but I'm talking strategy. I'm talking in the short term. How can
I just mentioned to you
our schools? We have schools, children abducted every day, from schools and all of that. How can we secure them?
Who would you say are involved in this particular heinous crime? They are human beings. They are our brothers. Even some of them, they say they come from another country. But most importantly, if you do not get these people to know the difference between what they are doing and what the effect will be in the future, you cannot be able to communicate with them. It will be difficult for you to communicate with anybody who is not well educationally entrenched, and he synergizes with him from his own southern brother. It's difficult. Okay. So strategy-wise, it is very good for you to start thinking about what are the pillars. One of the problems that we have in this country is that we try to look at problems from the surface. I said one time, as a chartered accountant, and which I know Dr. Rabi Musa Kwankwaso will be alluding to, you cannot give an accountant salary of 100,000 naira, and then you keep him in charge of 1 billion naira as a project money. And he cannot take care of the schools of his children. He cannot take care of the security of his children. He cannot take care of the feeding of his children. And then you are not saying now that there will not be corruption? It's not going to be possible. So for us, and for anybody who is sane, and I know which is shared, you have to prepare the ground that makes sure that that particular person who is in charge of that particular money has enough money to take care of himself salary-wise, that can take care of some of his needs, taking away his educational problem out of it, taking away of his security out of it, taking care of hospital bills. All of these things can be done because some of the things that have already been put in place, those are the short-term things. And strategy-wise, it can work. But for a long-term project, which I still maintain, which he also shared, because if you want to ask him, he will tell you that he's endearing himself with education. And I keep on maintaining education is very, very key for our collective survival, especially in the North.
So what are his short-term goals?
The short-term goals, I have already said, are those ones that we have to take care of the immediate needs of the people. Immediate needs of the economy, security,
How
and
is he going to go about those ones?
Well, in terms of economy, you get involved in predominantly, majority of our people, especially in the North where the population is agriculture. Agriculture is key, and you must also encourage people who are artisans, who have been able to. The economy of Nigeria is based actually in the hands of those people neglect, like those who get into production of shoes, production of, these are artisan bags and all of those ones. People can live within their own domain, production of things that people benefit from within their own domain. And especially in Kano, for example, we are predominantly in my own local government, we produce rice, from Kura local government. And those rice production companies, and you have small companies like that. Imagine if you have big industries, which of course he is looking at to make sure that people have all of this, they are working and they are producing goods, they are being productive in a way. So those are the things that will help, because if the individuals are surviving as a country, he will network collectively to have a bigger economy in the society, because that is when you can even tax them and they will be able to pay and then take care of their needs.
All right, now when you emphasize education, I believe that there are dynamics to the problems of Nigeria. Some, suffer from certain challenges more than some. So if you talk about, education as key, that, to a large extent, I believe, relates to the northern part of the country where you need more of that. But again, there are other regions of the country that also are dealing with different issues. And if you talk about economically, how they too can also benefit. Today we are talking about high inflation rates in Nigeria. We are talking about the value of the dollar to the naira, how it is skyrocketing.
Yes.
The last time we were talking about 600 to a naira, $600 to a naira. Yeah, $600 to a naira, right? Now,
even though it fluctuates,
at the center of this is the issue of how can we maximize production, how can we export more to strengthen our naira. But you have manufacturers who are constantly struggling with infrastructural deficit. Issue of power is at the very top of all of those conversations. How do you deal with that to be able to boost production in Nigeria?
For key thing, every part of this country has a peculiar problem that is associated with it. That brings us the issue of agitation by a lot of people for restructuring. Like, for example, what goes for the Southwest does not go for the Northeast. So he will have a think tank around him specifically dealing with issues that come from each of these particular areas. Once you are a productive nation, you are producing, you are exporting, the issue of the naira and the dollar will definitely change its dynamics Today, why those particular high level of price, the exchange rate is so high? Because we are not a producing nation. We are more or less a consumer nation. And once you are producing and you encourage every sector of the economy and every part of this economy to be more productive, it will reduce that particular area of the economic change, and the naira to dollar will definitely change. As a student of economics, those who know that will definitely tell you that that is the simplest way of getting the naira to
Well,
the dollar.
how do you do that without power? How do you do that with without the necessary infrastructure in place?
No. Of course, we have to deal with making sure that the infrastructure is being produced. I provided, like I just give you an example of what we expected to do when you want to empower the people in Kano. For
and
example,
those part of the
in that
Dr.
particular area,
Kwankwaso plans to do.
You see, a progressive person think alike.
Does he have an agenda like that?
Of course he has.
Oh, he does?
He does, of course. And which, of course, I know he will share. Like, for example, now we are talking about in the northeast, in southeast of Nigeria. Southeastern Nigeria have technically endowed people, like the Aba market and the rest of them, who can even produce cars, and Innocent Motor, for example, has showcased that. What you need to do, or what, of course, we will do as a collective, how do we increase that particular industry? How do you institutionalize it in the heart of Nigerians, where at a point in time, majority of Nigerians will be using Innocent Motors? That will encourage that particular company. And you, of course, you will have an automobile company of that particular nature in almost every part of the country. That will enhance it. When you look at the Southwest, for example, where you are talking about textile and in Kaduna and in Lagos and all, you encourage it by production of cottons and all from the north, transporting it to where they will have as raw materials. We will encourage that. So these are ways in which you can economically, infrastructurally put the country in the pedestal of being a productive nation. And that, of course, will automatically bring down the exchange rate.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We've touched on quite a bit, and it's time for us to end this at this point. Thank you so much for coming on Daybreak.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you coming. We've been speaking with Dr. Yunusa Tanko. He is the former chairman of IPAC. He's also a very strong supporter of Dr. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, who is a presidential hopeful under the platform of the NNPP. With that, we'll take a short breather, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at other discussions on the